Hey guys. So after having traveled the world, I have found that traveling the world brings you closer to locations, people, um, events that you would otherwise not have been exposed to. Just living, um, in one part of the globe and remaining there. However, you can learn about those events, those languages, those people through reading books. But traveling is gives you that firsthand experience where you can touch, smell, um, taste, listen to um, those those places, those foods, and the like. And what I want to do here is I want to tell some stories about some experiences that I had recently. Um, and those experiences um, were, excuse me, there's a piece of hair in my mouth. Those experiences were heightened because of my recent travels. Okay, let me get into these stories and just give you some idea. Because when I think about those experiences, I think of synchronicity. I think of coincidences, irony, but also alignment. Like spiritual alignment. But I don't want to get into the esoteric or the metaphysical, and all of these sort of things. I just want to share these few stories and these experiences and just um, show how my travels heightened my awareness of these things. All right, so here we go. Um, the first, the first story is related to the Black Panther Party of self-defense of California, and the connection that I have to this group is, for one, when I was in elementary school, I attended school, or my classmate was a son of one of the Black Panthers. And recently I also worked alongside another son of a Black Panther, or of Black Panthers. And having, studied alongside, my classmate, and having worked alongside my colleague, that gives me firsthand experience with these people. They're not, outside of my experience. These are real people that I know and, love, especially the Black Panther Party. But here's the thing. So completely unrelated to, uh, my friends and colleague, you know, I was posting pictures on Instagram just yesterday, and as I was doing so, I posted 8 pictures of members of the Black Panther Party, or the Black Panther symbol or logo. And in doing so, I was reminded that the Black Panther Party started, or was founded, in 1966. And the coincidence was that I was approaching my 1966th photo post on Instagram. So that was a coincidence. 1966 and 1966. So boom, there it is. All right. Of course, I didn't plan it. That's the point that I want to emphasize, that I didn't plan that. I wasn't looking at it as, oh, I'm coming up on my 1966 post. Let's make all of these posts about the Black Panthers, and then tell people, hey, in 1966 the Black Panthers were founded. No, that was not my intent. I just realized this came about naturally. All right. Now, the next story I have is about my recent trip to In-N-Out Burgers here in Los Angeles. I was going to the Culver City In-N-Out Burger joint one day to get a burger, a double-double. And instead of waiting in the long line, the line was ridiculously long. It wrapped around the block. these were cars in line to enter the drive-thru. I decided that I didn't want to wait in that line, so I drove away from In-N-Out, and I decided that I would go home. But on my way home, just a short distance from that In-N-Out, there was a Jamaican restaurant, which I had been to before, and I decided, hey, I might as well stop in this Jamaican restaurant. I was hungry. I had left home to get something to eat, and although I did not plan, I did not intend on eating Jamaican food that day, you know, the circumstances at In-N-Out led me to switch plans. So I pulled into the parking lot and I parked, and it struck me. I said, whoa, I'm wearing my Rasta cap. I was wearing a button-down shirt, which was Rasta inspired. It had the Ethiopian flag on, the Lion of Judah emblem, and numerous Rastafarian, logos, emblems, regalia, insignia, etc. And then lastly, I was wearing my Bob Marley t-shirt. So I was completely Rastafied. But that day I had no intention of going to the Jamaican restaurant to eat. And so when I pulled into the parking lot, I immediately had a moment of, self-consciousness. I said, oh gosh, when I walk into the Jamaican restaurant, they're gonna say, look at this Jamaica file, or maybe they're gonna say, oh, well, look at this Rastafarian, or maybe they're gonna say, oh, look at this Jamaican. And, pretty much none of that was even true. I'm just Larry, and here I am, going into this Jamaican restaurant just to get, a bite to eat. And I've never been to Jamaica, so I really don't have a connection to Rastafarianism, Jamaica, whatsoever. I just wanted some Jamaican food, all right? So anyway, I go into the Jamaican food restaurant, and I got my jerk chicken plate, and then I left. I went home, and I ate my meal. Now, while I ate the meal, I decided that I would watch television, and I turned on the tube, and I went to my iTunes playlist, or iTunes library, and one of the first options was Anthony Bourdain, and it was an Anthony Bourdain Parts Unknown episode that I watched while eating my meal. And I happened to choose the Ethiopian episode. There's no, there is no denying it. I am an Ethiopia file. From everything that I've learned about Ethiopia, I'm all rah-rah for Ethiopia, So I was glad, I gladly watched the Ethiopian episode of Parts Unknown, starring Anthony Bourdain. Now here's the spooky part. Just as I did not intend to go to the Jamaican restaurant to eat Jamaican food, even though I was dressed in a very Jamaican style, I did not intend, or I did not set out to watch an Anthony Bourdain episode of Parts Unknown, while I was eating. This is just how things played out. And come to find out, that day was June 8th. And that June 8th is the day on which Anthony Bourdain committed suicide. And it was exactly 2 years ago that Bourdain, transitioned or died. So none of that was planned. How I discovered this is I went to Instagram later after eating my meal, and I saw a picture of Anthony Bourdain, and I thought, wow, what a coincidence. I was just watching an Anthony Bourdain episode. Anthony Bourdain's the man. And then I looked under the picture to read the caption, and I read, rest in peace, Anthony Bourdain, June 8th, 2018. What a coincidence, like, wow. So, as I said, this is synchronicity, coincidence, irony, or, spiritual alignment. Sometimes we could be led, to or towards some things, and I mean, because imagine if I had decided that I was not going to go anywhere but In-N-Out, you know, I wouldn't have this story, perhaps. Perhaps, you know, I might have still gone home, had that burger, and turned on an Anthony Bourdain episode and watched it, but I wouldn't have had that Jamaican connection, you know, to add to it. Okay, so there's that. Those are my stories, but I have one more. This is my last story here, and this one is about another moment of synchronicity, of coincidence, irony, or spiritual alignment. And this is what happened. I was watching, so it was June 12th. I was watching Da 5 Bloods, Spike Lee's latest, you know, movie. And this movie was filmed mostly in Thailand, but the movie was set in Vietnam. So I've been to Vietnam, I've been to Thailand. So there was already a connection. I was interested in seeing what Spike had, you know, put together. And what I did is I watched the movie, and I noticed that the movie was filmed at Angkor Wat in Thailand. No, not Thailand. Oh my goodness, I made a mistake. Angkor Wat is not in Thailand. Angkor Wat is in Cambodia. I'm completely confused now, because I thought that, I remember hearing that that the movie was filmed in Thailand, but I thought that some of the scenes were filmed in Angkor Wat, which is in Cambodia. Oh gosh, I'm completely confused now. Okay. So anyway, so as I'm watching the movie, I'm noticing, you know, different locations and whatnot. And I go to check my phone because I wanted to find pictures that I had taken in Vietnam. I wanted to see the photos that I took in Vietnam, but I found that I don't have many, if any. I may have one or two photos that I took during my short time in Vietnam. So, although I didn't find them, yeah, I felt, you know, I regretted that not having any photos. Now, the reason I don't have photos is because I think I changed my password or changed my Apple ID account, and I lost those photos somehow. But anyhow, I couldn't find any photos, couldn't find any whatsoever. And as I'm watching this movie, I'm looking for a personal connection to Vietnam. And the only connection that I found, or I presume that I would have, would be through the photos, but I didn't have any photos. So I felt like I was at a complete loss. Like, dang, I don't have any memories from my time in Vietnam. And then that's when I touched my neck. I was watching the movie. It was toward the end of the movie when I did this. I touched my neck, and then I realized that this gold chain here, I realized that I purchased this gold chain with the Buddha here. I realized that I purchased this in Vietnam. And I said, whoa, this is memorabilia. This is a relic. This is something that I have. This is a treasure, a souvenir that I have from my time, as proof of my time in Vietnam. And then the major coincidence is that the movie Da 5 Bloods is about gold in Vietnam. So there you have it. There's the connection, the you know, spiritual connection, the coincidence, the yeah, all of those things. So that's what's up with. So had I not traveled, these stories that I'm telling would not be of interest. I wouldn't be able to tell these stories, for one, but also, yeah, they wouldn't be of interest. I think these are some interesting stories, so that's why I wanted to share them. You know, at least I find them interesting. So, Um, of course, I haven't been to Jamaica, so my travels did not lead me or lend themselves, to me wearing Jamaican, T-shirts and whatnot. But it was my travels to Ethiopia that informed me of, Jamaicans and Rastafarians, and so all of the travels just helped me, bring everything together, philosophies, ideas, and so in a very real sense, after traveling the globe, the world becomes much smaller, a much smaller place, because you now, I now have, firsthand experiences um, that I can call upon, of people, places, events in history that are significant and that are even of greater significance because I've traveled the globe. All right, those are my stories. Thanks for listening. Peace.